This is Mike at a Photo Concerto. And who do I have the pleasure of talking to today?
I'm Steve Markoff.
And how you doing today, Steve?
I'm fine, thank you.
And I know you've got a new, was it an album or a single? Because I think the email I got was just talking about a single.
Right now, what we're doing is we're releasing a few singles that are going to be part of our next album, which is due out in June. And we're not afraid to share some of it because we do a full 75 minutes of music. So we're never the people who wait. They get plenty anyway. It's a follow up to our Timeless album, which we did in 2019.
And so your music, it's so one of the things that came out was "I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight," which of course is a cover of the classic 80s song.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing a more interesting take on covers.
Mm-hmm. A little more earthy. You just can't. The 80s, there's nothing like the 80s, and you can't sit there and try now, 30 years later, with just instruments to try to duplicate it exactly. That's not the object. So the object is to take the 80s was the synth sound, really high energy, and it's. In that kind of situation, people don't necessarily realize the beauty that the song, underlying beauty of the melodies of these tunes that they had, because they were hidden by all this energy from the decade. And it's funny when you strip it out. That's what we're trying to do. Is we try to strip everything out and just go back to the very basics. And with flute and alto flute, it's sometimes doesn't work, and sometimes it's fantastic.
Well, and that's what I was going to get to, is that instead of doing the traditional cover, you're doing, I'd say it's more like easy listening, and instead of vocals, you're relying on the flute.
Yeah, and we work with the concert flute and the alto flute, which have two totally different feels. That concert flute brings the excitement, and the quickness, and the alto flute brings the earthiness underneath. It kind of changes the whole feel of the song like I say, it was purely by accident that we came up with this whole idea. It started off 4 years ago as a concert with three people, myself, Patricia Lazara, who, by the way, is was the person responsible for first putting a flute into my hands. So our relationship is kind of morphed into one of colleagues. Instead of where it started as just student and teacher. But we were doing an event with two of us and a harpist, and as things happened, the harpist had an injury.
Okay.
And it was kind of too late. So I figured I filled in with some of the stuff I was fiddling with, and that was a couple of light rock songs, and the people went nuts. They were swinging from the chandeliers. I said, hey, I've got a few more of these. Let's put them together and see how they sound. And, that's how our first album came about.
Well, the thing is, I think a lot of it thanks to the internet, but there's a market for those more unique takes on music that people are familiar with. I know when my daughter, when she was still a baby, I found there was a whole collection of lullabies that were classic music.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up one, it was all Rush songs done as lullabies. There was no songs done as lullabies.
What amazes me, the Cutting Crew song, "Died in Your Arms," that was selected at a concert by our fans.
Really?
We threw like in the show we include like 6 or 7 new ones, and we said, you guys will vote on what kind of which one you want us to release as a single. And our audience ranges from college kids now up to people in their 70s, even 80s. And, I know you don't think it's tough to think about 80s with people, boogieing, but trust me, Led Zeppelin was big. They weren't always 80, and you can't imagine that, grandma or grandpa, but it brings them back. And it's amazing how many people not only recognize these songs, they're so much a part of them, and that their body lights up. They're into it, and you sit there and say, just wow, And like I say, that now they redo these songs, they recirculate a lot of this material, and a lot of times the young crowd now only knows the recirculated version, like hip hop version of Gordon Lightfoot, and then when they hear the original, they don't believe somebody else had actually done that. So it's fascinating watching the dynamics and where the young kids and the older set come together, and in agreement. And a lot of times it's this type of arrangement gives them both a chance to enjoy the same kind of thing.
So I'm curious. So that was when the fans selected. What were their other options?
Well, they had Chicago. They had Bruno Mars, which I thought the young kids would go for. No, that's me. They had Led Zeppelin. I'm trying to remember what else we had in there. Boz Skaggs, yeah, that was and although the people we did show this last weekend, and now they loved the Boz Skaggs and the Moody Blues. The people, they were like transfixed, and I'm sitting there like, this is a very old crowd. What are they going to do with this? But that's their favorite. That was their favorite 50 years ago in the late 60s, early 70s. So, and you just you're able to bring joy to such a wide variety of people. It feels so good.
So, for the record, my Led Zeppelin.
Your favorites? So we're doing, so we have a brand new collection, and again, that we're going to put out in June. We're going to release one single a month. Don't get scared. That's about 30 minutes of music, but we do a full 70 to 75 minutes when we jam the CD full. We no 45-minute CDs. So people are still going to, and it gives people a chance to enjoy it over the period of time.
Well, what I noticed with some of the track listings I saw from your other albums is that you've got a collection of various artists. Have you ever thought of maybe doing like a tribute album? You'd get one particular artist, and that would be the focus. One particular artist.
We could. That might be an idea. Maybe I'll steal that one.
Well, okay, if we're talking these, I'm gonna say, because the band I think of that had a ton back then, Duran Duran.
Yeah. That's interesting. Let's try one out. Sometimes I hear things and I go, wow, that's great. Let's just go make the arrangement, do the arrangement. It just never clicks. And sometimes you put something together and you go, don't even waste your time, like Tom Petty or something. And it's just like, wow. It actually surprises me how well it suited. You can't tell, so you can't say no to anything. You give me an idea, I'm going to go with it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to throw it out then, because I hear, of course, thanks to YouTube, lots of people doing various types of covers and stuff. I think it would be interesting to hear this type of arrangement used with some of the more familiar and popular video game soundtracks.
I have Donkey Kong in my brain but the current ones, I don't know what the current ones are.
Well, I mean, you can always, there's tons of Mario, tons of Final Fantasy games, and always put medley.
That would be interesting. Arrangement of some of the things. I mean, I'm seriously, I say no to nothing. The thing we're doing after this, in between the pop albums, we did Romances in Blue, which was and that was a collection of people contributed things, famous Ennio Morricone, and also some commissioned work, and probably in 2023 we're going to be doing something along that line again with just cultural songs, so just things from various cultures, Native American, Armenian, Russian, and I don't know where that's going to go, but it sounds like an idea, so we're starting with that too. But I'm definitely gonna take your idea with the Duran Duran.
Yeah, like I said, having grown up in the 80s, and
that's it. That's the
and they had tons of hits. And I think like that one, I can't even think of the name. I think just about every song on that album had a single and a music video released.
Mm-hmm.
So with the various arrangements you've done of pop music, what are some that you've tried to do that just didn't work?
We had trying to delete them. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what Redbone. We tried that. Come and Get Your Love. That one. That sounded nice, but that didn't sound nice. The Billy Joel one we put together. For some odd reason, maybe it was just a length. So maybe I'll have to go back to it. I'm trying to think of a couple of others. I try not to dwell on those. I try not to. If I had a list of, if I went through my my file with the different tries, I'd go, that's why that didn't work. Then maybe we'll revisit that with another instrument, maybe bass, or maybe they just need a drum kit, to do it.
I am gonna say, as a side note, Joel, have you ever seen Billy Joel live?
I've seen a tribute. No.
Definitely. So I saw him live a few years ago. I went in with a photo pass. I'm more of a guy that likes metal. I stayed for the entire Billy Joel show. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a guy that, he hasn't put a new album out in 25 years. And you realize as you're watching him perform, he doesn't need to.
Yeah. He still has the flair that he did. And people when they reach back and see performers from the past, sometimes people don't like it because the people don't sound exactly like they did then. Well, of course, back then they were 20 something, 30, and now they're you don't expect them. Some people call that a negative. I personally enjoy it when they sound a little different now, a little more mature. Peter Frampton's a guy where you think of Peter Frampton from the mid-70s, but if you listen to him now, you go, that's not the same person. I know, but that's from the song. But what happens? You get people who follow these bands, and they're not happy if the original people are there and they don't sound exactly like they did.
But then they're not happy if the original people are
there. And
then
if they not the original band and you bring in fill-ins, then they say, oh, it's no good. It's not the original band. Bottom line is it's something totally different. And they got somebody as timeless as Billy Joel or Chicago. That's, it's like allow them to evolve.
Right.
Allow them and judge it for what it is.
Well, and with that in mind, I actually had a photo pass for Kiss a few months ago, and you've only got 2 of the original members, but it's a great show.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And some of the music of theirs, I was never a big fan of the really loud stuff, but some of the soft stuff they did was just terrific. It's like, wow, I was surprised when I found out that was Kiss.
So that might be another band you could look into for doing a.
My tongue's not long enough.
The makeup and stuff.
I'm not. And we have a terrific pianist, Allison Brewster Franzetti, who's performed on several Grammy award-winning albums, and she's a Grammy nominee of her own. And I feel blessed to be able to have somebody who's, available, professional, accurate, could bring ideas to the table. And I stumbled upon her totally by accident. But we're all friends and we all get each other. And that's important. When you get into the studio, you really have to, get each other as people. Otherwise, it could be a long, terrifying experience.
Well, that's why there's some bands that, don't make it that far because they don't get each other. And, a year or 2 into it, they've broke up just because of infighting and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, what's the difference between an alto flute and a concert flute?
The difference is about half a octave.
Okay.
Well, there's no such thing as exactly half, but it's a fourth lower.
Okay.
It's actually in G. It's not. If you play a G on an alto flute, it sounds like a C on the piano.
Okay.
That's different. And it's like in between a bass flute. The bass flute is a totally different timbre. I like the alto flute better. I play that almost exclusively. I think I can kind of, I've been told, kind of bring a unique sound to it. The lows are terrific. The highs, it can be, as long as you don't go too high, they have a nice feel to them. So I love that instrument.
See it.
And concert flute is the one you see mainly in orchestras.
Okay. Yeah. See, and when I saw, flute, I think probably like most people, just, okay, a flute is a flute. And then when I saw alto, I'm like, wait, I didn't know there was other variations of the flute.
Yeah, you don't realize, it's funny. We all think of saxophones, and we know there's Kenny G with his little alto sax, and there's a tenor sax, a baritone sax. People have seen them, but you haven't seen. People have seen the piccolo because they've all watched the 4th of July parade or whatever,
right?
With earplugs, and people have seen the regular flute. There very few people have really seen an alto flute. I explain it at every gig. Fewer people have seen a bass flute or a contrabass flute, which they have. They have this one type of flute, which is literally, it's like plumbing. It's like, the plastic tube. It's that thick, and it's almost like a half, looks like takes up the space like a drum kit. And I can't get sound out of it. It's so low.
This is the first time I've even heard of one.
Yeah. So, and if you go, flute choirs have made that stuff popular. It wasn't that long ago that there was virtually no music written for alto flute. Because it's the only instrument that's keyed in G. And so if you wanted to play an alto flute, you had to transcribe stuff from a C instrument to the G instrument, or play. I play a lot of cello music, but cello music's got a bass clef instead of a treble clef, and it's also a C instrument, so I have to do 2 transpositions at once, to actually do it. but flute choirs have become very, very popular with in high schools and things. And with that popularity has come more music written especially for alto flutes and bass flutes and these other members of the family.
So that you play cello too?
No.
Oh, okay. I guess I misunderstood.
Cello parts.
Okay. I just misunderstood then.
Are you familiar with Rasputina?
Yeah.
I don't know how she pronounces the name of it, but I saw her, Melora Krieger, and I go, wow, that gave me some ideas. I said, that's really interesting with cello. Why can't we do something like that? Why can't we get outside the box with the flute? And what's interesting is the reaction in the flute community. They don't know what to make of it. They don't know what to make of it. They know what to make. You can play anything. You can play Bach. You can play, you can play anything else, and they know what to do with it. Whether they like it or not, it's different. They're like stunned by just approaching these, type of pieces strictly with flute. I don't like these things. Like I have to look up here to be looking at you. I'm happy, and you're looking like here. They're looking at me, and so that's one thing about the last year of Zoom. I couldn't get into not looking at the person.
I don't see why. I'm a little perplexed why they would think it's odd, because my thought is if someone can come up with something innovative and creative to do, not just with a song, but with an instrument, do it.
Yeah, well, actually, they do, but the new thing with flutes is are making other sounds with the flute.
Okay.
These what they call extended techniques. They do the they do the percussion and all that stuff on the flute, and that's amazing. And there's a lot of outside, really weird and they really creative stuff that people are doing with flutes. But it's the stuff. This just got forgotten. This whole realm of music, jazz flutes, are very, very big, very famous as people with doing jazz. But I think just this generation just left this out. I think, it's not in any of the books. It's not in any of the texts. It's not in the programs. And you can do amazing things. I personally would love if I was a flute professor and somebody was doing their final exam. I would love to see them get creative with something that they've arranged that's pop or soft rock or something like that. Not just get creative with the techniques, but get creative, because we don't do anything crazy with the techniques.
You're talking about with the arrangement.
Just with the arrangement, just imagination in that way.
I think that's actually a really good idea, because, any music classes you take, you're usually taught, okay, here's this song, you learn this song. And a lot of times that's, your big test at the end. We know what anybody can do that. Instead, take something that exists and put your own twist on it.
Yeah. And it becomes really yours.
Right.
It's yours. It's nobody, you're never going to hear the exact thing. It's yours. And if you love it, and you can tell by looking at me that I love doing this.
Yes.
when I put my heart and soul into it, and I've got my wife, who's my biggest fan and my biggest critic, and she'll hear something like where right now I'm working on Rod Stewart, Maggie May.
Okay.
That goes back a while.
Yeah.
And she's like, she hears it in the beginning when we're putting things together and fiddling, and she'll make a funny face or something. And then later, as I'm putting it together, she's bopping to it, so she sees, it's funny, she sees the whole process as starting from from scratch and building little pieces of it. Because literally, in order to do this, we take it back from scratch. Like, literally nothing. None of the chord progressions and things that you'd see in the. If you looked at the music, at the sheet music, we don't do any of that. Dimitri Verilas is a friend of mine in Canada. He does a lot of. He does the piano work because I do not write piano. I do not play piano. But and he's very creative, he and I think he's learned how I think, so what we come up with is usually something that we're both really, really happy with.
Okay, so when is the new album out?
I'm planning the first Sunday of summer, June 21st.
Okay.
We're doing key dates. The next one will be February 17th, my birthday.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do...
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Then we're going to do spring, March 21st. So we have a few anniversaries. And I think the next one's going to be really outside the box. Some Crowded House. Know them? Don't Dream It's Over. Now, I have to tell you, here's a funny story. Died in Your Arms. The gentleman who wrote it for Cutting Crew, Nick Van Eed, he loved it.
I was actually going to ask, have any of the
he
artists,
loved it. He says,
"I'm feedback from the artists."
And I told him the story of the concert. And he says, "Well, I'm really proud of that." That's good. I'm not sure Neil Finn what he's going to think of this because we went way outside. We had like part of it in a waltz tempo and like 3 different key changes. At first I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't like it. But it's grown on me to the point where like he might actually like it. So we'll find out. That's going to be the next one. I'll find out. It's nice, and they love it. I mean, look, anything you're doing to keep their music popular with the next generation, I'm sure even if they don't say it, they would. They'd like it.
Yep. So, all right. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you today. But when the new stuff comes out, shall we talk again?
We definitely will.
Okay.
And thanks for your time.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
I enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.